Good morning, Bucknutters. It is Thursday, May 23rd, 2024. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and Change. Got a great show for you today. Obviously, the Dean's here, Bill Kurlick, and Mark Porter, the Grand Poobah, will be here as well. But first, you know what time it is. Fellas, blink if you haven't purchased a Father's Day gift yet. Yeah, we thought so. Today's episode is brought to you by Manscaped, the leaders in below-the-waist grooming. Maybe your pops has needed help since the 70s, and that's okay. Our friends at Manscaped have crafted the total package for a special day. Whether it's for the boys downstairs, his beard, or even the best pair of underwear out there, Manscaped has his bases covered. Head over to manscaped.com and get 20% off plus free shipping with code Bucknuts. From daddy to zaddy, trust Manscaped. Once again, get 20% off plus free shipping with the code Bucknuts at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping. And don't forget to use the code Bucknuts. Never forget where you came from, if you know what I mean. Happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day from Manscaped. All right. Speaking of fathers, two fine fathers, total of, I believe, 5 children between them, and I'm going to say over under on 3.5 grandchildren. Here we go. The Dean, Bill Kurlick, and the Grand Poobah, Mark Porter. Okay, yesterday, guys, 24/7 Sports fleshed out their 5 stars. So we can get into how they do it. This is not Bill or me or Mark telling you this is how it should be done or what. I'm just going to let you know how it's done as a frame of reference going forward. There will be there are 32 5 stars because there are 32 draft picks in the NFL. So they're now trying to essentially project guys in a lot of ways based on their NFL value. Now, whether you agree with us or not is actually a separate issue here. You can make arguments on how to rank players, project them, and how much to go into the NFL vibe, but that's what you're getting. So they started out with 16, and now they have 32 5 stars. Bill, could you let us know which Ohio State verbal commitments are 5 stars and the other 5 stars that they are in contention for? Ironically, number 33 is Carter Lowe, so he won't be mentioned, but his accountant will probably be in good shape. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, Tavian St. Clair got yet another bump. He gets a bump every updated rankings, it seems. And if he gets another bump, he's going to be the number 1 prospect in the country because now he has been moved up to number 2. He's behind only quarterback Bryce Underwood, and I think it's very realistic that when all is said and done, that Tavian St. Clair could be the number 1 prospect in the country. So he certainly heads the list at number 1. Then you've got Devin Sanchez checking in at number 4. And as I say that, we have Deetra checking in, and that is always a good thing. Devin's mother, of course. You've got Naim Offord checking in at number 6. So you've got 3 out of the top 6 players in the country right now are Ohio State 5-star commitments. As you mentioned, Dan, we've got Carter Lowe just missing. He is number 33. And then really you've got really 2 to 5, 6 other guys that Ohio State could end up within their class that are currently 5 stars. And in particular, of course, David Sanders Jr., the offensive lineman, he checks in at number 3. And that is a guy that's very realistic to Ohio State. I'm not crystal balling him to the Buckeyes at this point, although in my feature, I have him right now as in because I like the momentum Ohio State has. But he is certainly a realistic possibility to end up at Ohio State. Jonah Williams is the safety from Texas. They have a shot at him. He's making an official visit to Ohio State. You've got Trey McNutt, obviously. He's a 5-star right now, and I think he'll end up a 5-star. He's the number 1 safety in the country because 247 lists Jonah Williams as a linebacker, but Ohio State is recruiting him as a safety. So certainly Trey McNutt. Jamie French, the wide receiver from Florida, he is number 25, so he is also a 5-star. So really, when all is said and done, if you count Carter Lowe in there too, which again I think he could be very well could be a 5-star, Ohio State could end up with at least 5 or 6 5-stars in this class, and maybe as many as 7 or 8 5-stars when all is said and done. So needless to say, the Ohio State recruiting machine is doing just fine.
Yeah, we always knew they were going to be great at defensive back, and even with Blake Woodby hopping out of the class, you can see they are in tremendous shape. You can also see that the 24/7 Sports is very high on Trey McNutt. I was a little surprised he was rated that high. I'm not saying I disagree in any way, but I was kind of surprised. And I think you make a good point, Bill. The position may have something to do with that there. Although ranking a safety as a 5-star, given the NFL vibe to it, when safeties don't necessarily get picked that high, is tough. But if you look now, I mean, Ohio State is on the precipice here. Obviously, they're not getting Bryce Underwood, but they could get 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. That now I don't think that's going to happen, but that would be, the all-time haul. I mean, of all time. And we've got some interesting track times to show you later on to show you that Ohio State's really going after the fastest of the fast.
Yeah, glad you mentioned too, Dan. Dorian Moore. I didn't even mention him. He is realistic to Ohio State, as our friend Mike Roach in Texas said. There are no long shots with him. He's got 3 schools left, and none of them is a long shot. He may be trending to Texas right now, but Ohio State is not a long shot there.
No, and I had said on this show inaccurately, amazingly, that it was inaccurate, that I thought that Jameer Brown of Wayne was the fastest person they'd ever recruited. I'm going to alter that to the fastest freshman, because when I went and checked a lot of the guys Ohio State has recruited at wide receiver or defensive back and running back are obviously track stars as well. And Dorian Moore actually ran a faster 100 time this year than Jameer Brown. Now he was a junior, and it's a 1/10 of a second faster, but we will still get into that. Let's talk about Dorian Moore a little bit more, Bill. I heard Mike Roach say yesterday, and Andrew Ivins, that this year the receiver class is not as good as last year's receiver class, and that Moore might not even be a 5-star in this. If it came out last year, obviously we know that the number 1 player in the country was a wide receiver and came to Ohio State. Where do you put Moore in terms of guys you've seen over the last few years? Is he right there with these guys? Do you have him a level below? We'll throw some highlights up here as you speak.
I think he's pretty darn close. I don't. It'd be hard to say that there's much of anybody out there that is J.J. Jeremiah Smith. I mean, he is, to me, he's a generational talent. That he's just so good. It's hard to put anybody with him. But having said that, look at that film. Mark can comment more on Dorian Moore. I mean, if he's behind, and he is not behind many guys, that's for sure.
I mean, these guys are so Dorian Moore's the guy who he could probably be an Olympic sprinter if he really wanted to. I've said that before, Mark, but he has like we said, Jameer Brown has run the fastest 100 at a 10.51, and I'll put this thing up, and I think he was faster than that. Do you see that on film? A lot of guys, Mark, when they put the pads on, they drop a step.
No, he is gliding on film. It looks like 10.5 and more. And you're right. I do watch a lot of film where I see track times and I see the kid play, and there's not a direct match. This kid plays fast. He plays to his speed. He runs away from everybody. The ball skills is what puts him over the top, the leaping ability, the tracking the ball. Because, again, sometimes there's track guys that don't do all those things very well either. So he is the complete package, and that's why he's rated so highly. And it's not a matter of size. You see the jitter right there to shake a guy down who looked like he had him dead to rights. And we've watched this film, I think, probably the 4th time on this podcast. And every time I watch it, I think I see a clip and appreciate it more for, exactly how explosive he is. Well, that's a heck of a time right there.
Do you guys remember him? So
yeah.
This just got posted on the chat. Chris Nelms ran a 10.3300. If it's who I think it is, I think Chris Helms was from Dayton, and this was about when I was in college, so 20 years ago. And that dude could fly. He's at that. That's real Olympic speed. I'm sorry we interrupted. We digressed. Go ahead, Mark.
No, that's okay. I was going to look at these track times you're about to post, but when you say track speed and 40 times speed, I mean, you divide up these splits into the first 10 yards, 20 yards. Everyone's looking for a way to quantify the different types of speed you see on the football field. And Moore is a guy that the translation from track speed to football speed is there because he does have jitterbug speed. A lot of times track guys are straight line guys, and they don't have much of that side to side or the stop and go. And even we talked about, someone asked about Ted Ginn on the boards the other day. Ted Ginn was not the best in and out of breaks. He got better throughout his career, but sometimes the joke is you're running so fast, it's hard to slow down. You just can't put your foot in the ground and stop. So guys like this that can stop on a dime and make those cuts, that's why he's so special.
I remember growing up, stop on a dime was the term always used for Tony Dorsett. And that was real speed and the ability to maneuver at that speed, like we saw with Moore. Very, very impressive. All right, I'm going to put a graphic up here, but I want to preface it by saying this. There's a variety of ways to get track times on guys. I always go to something called Miles Split. That's what they use when I covered high schools back in the East Coast. Everybody has some kind of website or track organization that follows their times. These are not verified by Mark or me or Bill's hand times. We didn't do this. This is their posted time. So if they're wrong, I apologize. This is just meant to give you some context of some of the guys we've talked about. So if you look, let me take this down here. Okay, so if you look at the top, you see name, 100 meter, 200 meter, 400 meter. These are reported times. So it's their name and then their class. So Dorian Moore ran a 10.51, and then you can see across the board they are flying. Here's what jumped out at me. Naim Offord ran a faster 400 time than both of them. I've said this before. If I was recruiting for the Navy SEALs, I would go to all of the NCAA championships, 400 men and women, and just sit at the end and interview every winner and see if they wanted to get into the program, because the mental fortitude to run the 400 to me is amazing. You also see sophomore Trey McNutt, and look at those times. Okay, look at Dorian Brew's 100-meter time. Those guys are flying. How about another thing? Naim Offord's 200 time is slower than Cody Haddad's 200 time. So you see, let me take that out. 1 sec. Let me take this part out right here. Hold on 1 sec. You can see that they are recruiting world-class speed here. And you see that kind of proves our point on Jameer Brown. Dorian Moore was 0.2 of a second faster on the 100, which means Dorian Moore would be the fastest person in the state of Ohio, because Jameer Brown is. So that just lets you know they are recruiting world-class speed. Now, I'm not trying to blow smoke here. When you then take into account that Devin Sanchez, for example, is 6'2", and Naim Offord is pushing, that is the reason Devin Sanchez is the prototype, because there just aren't that many human beings on the earth at 6'2" that can run like that. And I get the sense that despite all the track background, and that's what you said earlier, there's some track guys playing football, and there's some football guys running track to work on their speed. Skeets Nehemiah, they tried to put him on the 49ers one time, and the guy went across the middle once and was like, check, please. I'm out of here. So there you have it. All right.
A couple things real quick, Dan, that stood out to me. Not a lot has been said about Quincy Porter, the wide receiver from the East Coast, who is making an official visit to Ohio State. And when I did my in-out and my predictions and all that last edition, I have him as in the class. We'll see if that happens, but that's what I have right now. And he's on there. He is very fast and very good, and probably not quite enough is said about Quincy Porter, the wide receiver. And the second one is Cody Haddad. You mentioned him, Dan.
Legit.
And Mark and I have talked about him before he was on a lot of radar screens. In fact, I did an article on him in December when he had not committed to anyone. He had not made his Wisconsin commit at that point. And he had an okay offer list, but not a great one. And I said something about this is a sleeper, a fast rising guy. And we see him on there. He's going to be a 4-star. If he's not, something is wrong when the rankings meticulate. So Cody Haddad is very good.
If you do I kind of looked into Cody Haddad a little bit. He was injured, like you guys said, so he's kind of off the radar a little bit. But his family is loaded with studs. Drew Haddad played in the NFL. So this is not some outlier. His family has had multiple elite football players in it. So we're just lucky to have Cody Haddad in the class. Obviously, you get a little stereotype action with the white defensive back. So I just want to see if his track time's matched up, and he can fly. So that's impressive. Bill, Quincy Porter is Bergen Catholic. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. That is extremely high-level football. Oradell, New Jersey. Used to be a Penn State breeding ground. Now everyone gets in there. And let's just talk about this, Bill. Ohio State's had some great luck in Jersey recently.
Yeah, actually, when you said that, Dan, I was going to bring up New Jersey used to be, I don't know if I'd say owned, but Michigan did extremely well. They had the coach from there and all that, and they did extremely well recruiting New Jersey. Well,
Chris Patridge.
Now, yeah, exactly. Now you look at it, and Ohio State, in my opinion, and I think most people, Ohio State has passed up Michigan as far as the recruiting in New Jersey. They're doing a great job there. Quincy Porter, and then I have another Jersey guy, Javon he's from Maryland. Javon McFadden, I was going to say he's from Maryland, but there are some other Jersey guys that Ohio State is recruiting. They are doing a good job over there now.
Jaden Bonsu, Davison Igbinosun, fine New Jerseyans. Who is the recent transfer, Bill? His name escapes me. From South Carolina. He's also a
Sanders.
Yeah.
Sanders.
They've done good work there. You're right. Michigan had done a great job there, and Penn State had always crushed there. Penn State crushes at Bergen Catholic. Let me go and read one more ad, and then we will be ready to rock here. This is a little easier. With Father's Day right around the corner, I guess you guys can sense a theme of how our ads go, given our sports vibe here. With Father's Day right around the corner, what do you give the man who has everything? Easy. You give him an experience he'll never forget. You give him Omaha Steaks. Because a world-class dad deserves what? A world-class steak. The Father's Day experts at Omaha Steaks have made it easy to put a smile on the big guy's face this summer with hand-selected gift packages starting at just $89. Just go to omahasteaks.com and use promo code Bucknuts at checkout for an additional discount when you shop gourmet gift packages for Father's Day. With Omaha Steaks, the possibilities are endless. Endless flavor, variety, and value. Truly, they have perfected more than steak, and your dad is guaranteed to love every bite. Pick from premium proteins like the juicy pork chops, air-grilled chicken, and beefy burgers. Go to omahasteaks.com and use the promo code Bucknuts to get an exclusive savings. Shop for unforgettable gifts that are guaranteed to make Dad's day, because if there's one thing Omaha Steaks knows, dads want steak. That's omahasteaks.com, promo code Bucknuts at checkout to save on exclusive packages starting at just $89. I talked about this ad nauseum. This is an amazing deal. It's $45 to take your family to McDonald's now, so you might as well just get the steaks. All right. Let's get into some questions here.
By the way, that's Keenan Nelson. I said
good call.
That was in the portal and is now headed to Ohio State.
Taiwan Malone, also from Jersey. I think Taiwan Malone may have gone to Bergen Catholic. I don't know. I got to look that one up. He was the biggest baseball hitter you've ever seen. Oh, look at this. Even all the names are coming out now. Malcolm Jenkins, Eli Apple from Verona, New Jersey. Same high school.
We got to bring up one name, Jack Tatum.
Ha, I didn't know that. Is he from Jersey?
He is from Jersey.
Now
that I guess I am showing my formerly gray hair before I got a haircut and my old age, but Jack Tatum's from Jersey.
Let's see here. All right, Bill, everybody seems to want to know about the number one offensive lineman in the country. Who is he? I think we just spoke about him earlier. And can you bring us up to speed on the vibes?
That would be none other than David Sanders Jr. And, as I mentioned, right now, in my recent update, I had David Sanders Jr. in for Ohio State, but I emphasized right now. He's going to take his official visits. He's going to finish those visits out. I like Ohio State's momentum, but there's a long way to go. And I do like the fact that Ohio State gets the last shot. So we'll see what happens.
All right.
Yeah, you got to peek at someone when they're the top lineman in the country. How do we tease people and not look at him? I know we've looked at him before.
Let's do it.
Yeah, an unbelievable athlete. To watch him run around here, runs around like a tight end right there. I mean, I'm sure he has a 40 time that's around 5 flat, if not better, just watching him move on film. And for his size, that's absolutely off the charts. Yeah, featuring him pulling here. I mean, he looks like that NFL body right there, just running around.
He runs like an athlete, though. Kind of reminds me. I say this with wishful thinking, but there's kind of two. If you're just being general, there's kind of two types of left tackles. Your monsters and your athletes. He looks more athlete Tyron Smith to me than Tyler Guyton, who the Cowboys drafted now, and I'm not sure can do it. You know what I'm saying? Like he wouldn't look. He's not a flappy belly guy.
No, and these last two plays are the example of why Ohio State wants him. He's going to zone block here. Did you see the way he kind of bucket stepped? He kind of drop stepped and got contained on that guy. And he does the same thing here, reaching these guys that are outside shoulder of you. The way he hops out there and gets his head and his body around this guy, that's the hardest block in sports. I got kids that send me highlight tapes all day with down blocks and double teams. Very few guys are jumping out there and reaching 9 techniques or 5 techniques, the guys on the outside shoulder. And you said it, the athlete, boy, that's what lets you do that. Ohio State bases a lot of their run plays on getting that outside shoulder and just pure domination. I mean, he's like a caveman out there, just bigger and stronger than everybody. So, yeah, no doubt this could be the number one player in the country.
And by the way, Dan, you mentioned that he's not a floppy belly guy. Talking to someone at Ohio State after Sanders' most recent visit, they said he looked fantastic physically. Yeah. Absolutely fantastic. And there you go. Jack Tatum, I mentioned, Patterson, New Jersey. Yep.
And here's a great one by Richie Dubs, Dwayne Haskins.
Yep.
So Dwayne Haskins went to high school, ironically, in Potomac, Maryland. That's where I met him because just by irony, my children attended basketball camp there. MVP. But he's from South Brunswick, New Jersey. Ironically, 20 minutes where I went to high school. You want to talk about 1989 and girls with the hair like this at the mall. That's where he's from. The late, great Dwayne Haskins. But Jack Tatum is from Patterson, New Jersey. Patterson's no joke, man. That's Lean on Me, if you guys ever saw that movie. So Jack Tatum, he could hit, and he came from a tough area. Of course, Igbenos. And let's get to some questions.
And back a long time ago when I started this, the old saying among college coaches back then was that New Jersey was a great place to recruit, the state of New Jersey, because a lot of talent and no real in-state loyalties there.
Exactly.
There's not a big-time school football power and all that kids go to. So without those loyalties, it's an open game. And that statement is 30-plus years later still very true.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's no state school. It's Rutgers. Mm-hmm. People don't even know that. Rutgers is a state school. I mean, fantastic academic institution, but literally, if you think about it, there aren't many states with that many people that don't have a football team in the state that dominates. That's a great point, Bill. And you know what? Football in the like greater Manhattan area and stuff is really not as big of a deal as it is in other places. If you go look, the city of New York and that area doesn't really produce a ton of dudes like a lot of the other areas. Haskins attended Bullis, but he is from South Brunswick. Trust me, Kendall Park specifically. All right, I had another really good one in here. There seems to be some consternation about Naim Offord after his visit to Oregon, and I guess he was quoted elsewhere as saying, there's some weird shit on there. In question. So, Bill, can you give everyone a little update on Naim Offord?
Yeah, I think Naim kind of said it best. I guess some service came out and said after Naim Offord's visit to Oregon that he was completely open on his recruitment and all. Naim tweeted out, or something to the effect of, could not be farther from the truth, or absolutely not true, or something along those lines. He's still committed to Ohio State. I do think he will go ahead and take that visit to Oregon this summer. You prefer that didn't happen, but in this day and age of recruiting, that's almost becoming the norm, that you're still going to get visits from kids, even though they're committed. They're going to make official visits elsewhere. And again, talking to a source close to him, they still feel that he'll end up at Ohio State.
Yeah, I'm not. I think you made a good point. Things have changed. Like, for example, I'm passing no judgment here, but there used to be a time, I remember, I don't know why I remember, it's like Mark D'Antonio. If you committed to Michigan State and visited elsewhere, they pulled your offer. Obviously not the case now. Like Tarvis Alford committed to Ohio State and then announced where he was taking his 5 official visits to. I don't have any problem with it, but things have changed. You can no longer, like Bill said, apply the old school mentality to it when it's like that. All right, we wanted to give you guys some more information on Jersey, but we also want to take you to Wayne High School and Mark's sojourn throughout the state of Ohio. We have talked about some great places. Last week, we featured some really cool stuff on Akron Hoban. Good Lord, they are loaded. I still can't get over the freshman and the 8th grader. Those guys blew me away. I'm serious. That was amazing. But I digress. Now let's move over to Wayne. We'll come west towards the finer part of the state and talk about Huber Heights, Wayne. Always loaded. Braxton Miller High. Who else, Bill, off the top of your head, went to Wayne? Will Allen, Marcus Freeman. It's a hotbed.
Yeah, and we made our visit there, I want to say 2 weeks ago now, and I've been talking about Jameer Brown since I left. This is him going through some drills, and we're just going to watch him run routes, and he does some one-on-ones. And it's really not fair for him to be going against his high school counterparts. I mean, he needs to be going against 5 stars to really test him and see his full potential here. Here he is against a one-on-one, and you can see the speed there. He just leaves his buddy in the dust at the break. That 100-meter time or whatever, it's evident as can be. I mean, he left another guy in the dust there coming out of the break, so you can see the speed. And as he separates here, he made a heck of a play on that ball. Then the other guy I really liked, and we're going to go into a few other guys here, is Kamari Smith. When I saw him play this year, he got taken out of the game. Someone landed right on his kneecap and bent his knee backwards. Ohio State's looking for tight ends in Ohio, and Brody Lennon and Kielmeyer over at Westerville South are some of the names they're looking at. But Kamari Smith might be a guy, and you can see the way he moves. He's a heck of a receiver at like 6'6" or so. And then Tion Hunter, I tell you what, Wayne has 3 of the best receivers in the state. Tion Hunter has a ton of MAC offers. I believe he's committed to Kent State right now. Boy, he put on a show, and he could run some routes, has some good size. And then there's another receiver coming up here after Tion Hunter that gives Wayne some very, very, how do I want to say it, deep ball guys, possession guys that come in and out of breaks. Gage, and I don't want to screw up his last name, Meese, one of the best route runners on the day. You could tell he's one of those guys that really set guys up and came in and out of breaks. has very good size. I was actually at Kent State and saw him on a visit there. He's a guy that when I saw him run routes, you can see there the double moves is what he was kind of going to. The best defensive prospect, and you can see the length there on defense, 6'3", 6'4" corner, Josiah Williams-West. Boy, is he long. I mean, what a nice looking corner there to cover guys up. May not have the 40 time, but may be able to play safety. You see him here on another clip, and he makes an interception on this play. He basically runs the route for the receiver. So deep balls or short balls, he kind of put on a show. Tyrell Lewis is the quarterback here. I think he's up to 20 offers. And I tell you what, if you can see him stand there, he's over 6 foot tall now. He used to be a guy that I didn't know how big he was going to get, but he's one of the top couple quarterbacks in this class, and he was dropping dimes on that day. Peyton Tenzingill's an offensive lineman that we could have covered there. A lot of prospects at Wayne. So between Akron, Hoban, and Wayne, wow. I mean, those are a lot of Division I Power 5 guys on a high school football team where I always say this, there's over 700 teams playing high school football. If we put out 125 D1 kids a year, that's 570 some towns that can't produce a D1 kid, and teams like this have 5, 6, 7, 8 of them. So to put that in perspective of how rare that is.
I want to get to 2 questions about local guys, and we'll finish with that, Bill. And I'm going to put you on the spot here, Bill, because I can't remember the name, but you had, and I thought about it when we looked at some of the longer DBs. Did Ohio State offer a defensive back yesterday that was over 6'3"?
They offered a. I think you're referring. Well, they offered a couple guys recently. They offered Brandon Finney from Maryland. He's about 6'2.5". I don't know if that's one.
No, I thought we offered a DB who was 6'4", and I was like, oh my God.
I don't know about. I didn't see a 6'4" guy, but. Like I said, Finney, he's about 6'2.5", so that's good size for a defensive back, no doubt.
Let's hit the names that everyone wants to hear about here locally, Bill. Then, Mark, you can chime in with however you feel. Trey McNutt and Justin Hill.
Well, I still like Ohio State's chances with Justin Hill. And, again, I haven't crystal balled him to Ohio State, but I've had him as in the class for a while. And I still like that. As you saw, if you went to Bucknuts the other day, 4 Ohio State coaches showed up at Winton Woods High School earlier this week. Of course, James Laurinaitis. You had Tim Walton, who recruits the Cincinnati area. You had Jim Knowles showing up there. Larry Johnson. It goes to the versatility of Justin Hill and the importance, the priority he is. And I still tend to like Ohio State's chances there. Trey McNutt, I guess if I absolutely had to make a prediction right now, I'd probably go with Ohio State. But I've said for a long time, that one is not a done deal at all. He's going to look at his schools. He's going to take his official visits. And even after he takes those official visits in June, he is not planning to make his decision quickly. He is planning to go into the season before he decides.
Mark, your thoughts on those guys remain high as ever?
Yeah, you know what? I had some friends that, as I was on the road, they were going to Cincinnati, and I was in Cleveland. And when we'd mesh up, we'd talk about what we saw. Mark, who'd I miss? And they told me that when they saw Justin Hill down there, and they were recruiting Justin Hill, they realized they no longer have a chance, but they thought he was the best player in the state of Ohio. The way he looks in person, the defensive end body, the way he runs, he can cover at linebacker, the versatility. He is a 5-star in my opinion and big-time prospect. So I'm all in.
I look back before Justin Hill was the household name he is in the recruiting scenes. I was going to Winton Woods to see a game, and Chad Murphy, the head coach at Winton Woods, who does a fantastic job, absolutely one of the best high school football coaches in the state of Ohio, he told me, you are going to be wowed by Justin Hill. I went home wowed by Justin Hill. He was tremendous that night. It was partway, maybe halfway through his junior season, a game, just tremendous.
You want to talk about a guy moving up the boards too. I think Justin Hill in the latest ranking, let's put this in here, Can you scroll down to number 50, please? I think he's number 50. You got to go to the overall
I think
ranking.
he's 61, I believe.
Whatever he is, in the last update,
number 60.
Okay, but what was he in the update before that?
Before that, Justin Hill was
something?
number 157.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. They don't tend to move you all the way up to where you're going to finish if you're an elite guy. But that is like the next time he's come out, he's not going to be 60. He's going to be closer to 30. You can trust me on that.
Two of the biggest.
Go ahead.
Two of the biggest bumps for Ohio State related guys were Justin Hill and Vernell Brown, the wide receiver from Florida. They both got huge bumps in the rankings.
And thank you to Mika Hanna. It was Jazavian Kearns, Bill. You nailed that. 6'2.5", not 6'4". That's my Bucknuts homering him up so he could be bigger. But 6'2.5" for a defensive back. If you're in shoes, we can say 6'3". I think.
Yeah, by the way, he's a 2026 guy. Kearns.
Just very impressive. Very impressive. All right. Last question. Shocker. We will give it to Sue, even though Sue got me crushed by the people a little while back. Where do we stand with Bo Jackson? Bo Jackson, running back. There's some buzz that Georgia's going to take him. Georgia taking an Ohio running back would be something to see. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that's ever happened. Maybe it has. Bill, your thoughts on the situation?
Well, it's not any shock that people are talking a lot about Georgia now because he just made his official visit there. And when you come off an official visit, and if it goes well, and it did go well, I will absolutely say that his official visit to Georgia went very, very well. But again, he's coming off an official visit. So give the other schools a chance. In particular, Ohio State gets him on campus for an official visit next weekend, May 31st. I'm going to go out on a real limb here and say that visit will probably go well and he will like it. So we will see. He also has Alabama scheduled for an official visit. He's going to take those visits and then decide. And, I haven't switched my crystal ball. I crystal balled him to Ohio State early. I haven't switched it, but I do acknowledge that Georgia is certainly a threat to Ohio State.
What do you hear out on the road, Mark? Do you hear Bo Jackson in or out?
I haven't heard either one. I did talk to someone the other day that asked me about Georgia and how serious I was. A college coach was asking about it. So if they're thinking about it, then it's out there. But I think Bill's right. Ohio State's going to be tough to beat, especially with them being able to put the full court press on him and Marquise Davis going to Kentucky. That opens up a little breathing room here. And it sounds like Ohio State's going to take a couple running backs, and he could be one of them. And he's so versatile, and I know he's going to be playing offense first, but he's a take no matter what because he can do either side of the ball.
And the one thing that I guess concerns me too a little bit is that it is really hard to get a 3 running back class. That's not an easy thing to do. They would love to get a 3 running back class, and they've got Isaiah West, they've got Jordan Davison, and they've got Bo Jackson at the top of the list. Convincing all 3 of those guys is not going to be an easy thing to do. Can Ohio State do it? Yeah, I think they can, but that's not going to be an easy thing to do. And if 2 jump in, does the 3rd guy jump in too? We'll see.
It is interesting. I mean, there was a time when people didn't want 2 running backs in a class, and now we just had, in my opinion, the best running back in the country transferred to be the 1A, and this for Ohio State. So up is down, dogs and cats living together. It's all different now. Mark, I'm going to give you the stage for the last question.
I was going to say that's the question I wanted to answer.
Can you say it out loud for us?
Yeah, the Sanders comparison to Paris Johnson. And when I saw Paris Johnson in high school as a sophomore, I could tell he was an NFL guy. You just saw it right there. I think the Sanders kid looks a little quicker and more athletic than Paris Johnson. Paris Johnson had a little more puppy dog in him, I want to say, where he was a little floppier, in high school. Sanders looks like he's a little more polished and maybe just a tad more quick. But, boy, those 2 are in the same air, and then you're talking about a top 10, NFL draft pick right there. So I like where they have Sanders rated.
not just a top 10 pick, but a guy who stepped in day one and is a pillar of their organization. Going to be very cool to see him play with Marv. If you're going to build your organization around two guys on offense, and it's Marv and Paris, good start. Quarterback, not so sure, but they'll have to deal with that themselves. All right, we go forever because the questions never end, but we appreciate everybody stopping by. We'll be back on Tuesday. Do you guys have any huge plans for the weekend? Bill? Chasing grandkids around?
Pretty much business as usual, although I am going to be seeing two of my grandkids that happen to live out of state. They come here, we go there, but I'm going to see them this weekend, so that'll be a good thing. But it'll be business as usual and posting articles and stories on Bucknuts as usual.
Mark, you'll be training your kids 14 hours a day, withholding water, getting them tough and mean, correct?
This is our first weekend without kids. Oh, you know what? We actually have a Super Bowl for flag football this weekend, but I think pressure washing, getting my yard back in line after being away for 3 weeks. I mean, my neighbors were starting to help me cut the grass. That's how bad it was getting. And I'm hoping to get my golf clubs out and be at least competitive with them.
I will add in my case, Dan, I also have my sister and her husband live in Florida. They are coming up here to see all of our family. So we'll certainly be doing that, but I'll certainly be working as well.
So not only do they know a lot about recruiting, they're also well-rounded family men and just pillars of society, and we're glad to have them. Hope everyone has a good day. Have a good one, Bucknutters.